Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Hoop and the Harm. I am obviously joined by our Batter Sports NBA insider, Nolan, as always. I know I'm going to start off. We're going to hit the Western Conference for a bit, but how are you feeling as a Knicks fan? I know you've got some injuries you're dealing with. You're still watching them every day. You're hoping for the best, preparing for the worst. I know they're currently battling out with the powerhouse of the San Antonio Spurs. But over the last couple of weeks, are you still got that jittery feeling like right before the flu bug?
I'm past the jittery feeling. I'm kind of like, I'm like deflated. I see the same thing over and over again. They get destroyed by good teams, especially in national TV. They get embarrassed against in those big opportunities where they can really make a statement. And then even like some of the lesser teams, it takes like a heroic shot in overtime to beat the Blazers the other day. They outplayed Sacramento, which was nice to see. But Sacramento's not a real contender. So it's like, and then tonight, like they're giving up, a 24-point lead to. They're starting the game off with the 24-point deficit to San Antonio without Wemby, without De'Aaron Fox. Like, what is this? I hate to say it. I mean, they're without Brunson. They've been without him, and they could be without him for a while. I don't believe in him the way I did last year.
Here's my I'll sprinkle a little hope. So with Brunson not playing. And with him healing his injury, he comes back hopefully fresher and more prepared for kind of a playoff run, if you will.
Definitely.
And so, in my opinion, when that he is such a talent, but he's also, like we talked about, an abused talent.
Yeah,
because he's so little. Maybe he comes back and looks better. The ankle injury, though, he may not come back all the way till next year. There's also that worry, but my hope sprinkler is like, maybe they all come back and they're feeling good for the playoffs.
It's a good point, and it's tough to tell because the Knicks are always so guarded about these injuries. Like there could be the scenario there that Jalen Brunson is injured, and it's actually not as bad as all this time off would make it seem, and they're really just being precautions out. Like, look, we're going to make the playoffs. We're going to get in. Let's just get him healthy. It'll be like, injecting a new superstar into this roster right before the playoffs. That might be the case, but it might also really hurt it.
And the other thing that I also like this, your team is learning how to play end games without him, hopefully building up some confidence. But the difference between like the NHL, which gives you nothing on injuries, their lower body, upper body, they don't tell you any details. And you can't really tell when you watch a game. You just say that was an odd play. He could have hurt numerous things, but they don't even tell you how long they're going to be out.
And with the padding.
But the NBA, I mean, I could watch that injury super slow-mo, high definition.
You can see the foot bent all the way back.
Yes.
It's not supposed to do that.
Like there is like the NFL, you can see everything very, very detailed. NBA is the same way. This is where the NHL gets to hide it a little bit because they're playing in that kind of like little box, if you will. So there's things you just miss. So,
and not mentioning the fact that hockey players are a different breed. They'll get stitches in their forehead and come right back out, and they look good.
That's insanity. But yeah, so you're feeling. This will be interesting to watch you go through the playoffs because obviously you're in a different place than I am as a Suns fan. And I want to jump right into the Suns because we shouldn't cover the Suns forever, but they are battling for a 10 spot. So where you're solidified in the playoffs, like the Knicks are in, they have a higher seed. They're exactly where I would like to be as a Suns fan, where I'm like, what's the matchup look like?
Yeah.
The Suns are in 11th. They're about a game out of Dallas, away from Dallas. Dallas is about to start getting some players back, which will be interesting. The Suns, though, are either being made fun of for looking rightfully so. They have earned all the criticism. They've earned it all. There's not a single person who's criticizing the Suns that is wrong. They look sometimes so nonchalant about playing that game. And then there's other games where you're like, man, if you play like this, you guys may have something, but they have more games where they don't have something clearly than they do have something. But as a Suns fan, here's where I'm hopeful, even though I'm saying the word hope because it doesn't make sense. I would like him to be 10. I would like to watch him in the playoffs. I'd like to see what they could do because it's not like the offseason's going to be great.
Hey, one game with Durant in the play-in, sure, give it a shot. Why not? You know?
I mean, it's better than what we're going to see, which is a chainsaw and cutting, similar to what the federal government's going through. Like, I feel like that's our future.
Yes.
And I'm not looking forward to that future because that means I have to trust all of these people to make a good trade.
Yeah.
When everyone knows you're making a trade. There's no one who's going to be like, oh, no, I really want to keep
Which objectively, it's crazy because, like, you got, like, literally one of the best players of all time on your roster, and, like, you're talking about trading him. How do we get better from that? Like, how do we make...
But not only that, everyone knows you need to trade him.
Yeah.
Like, there's not a GM who's like, oh, man, I got to convince them
to
give me him.
They know it's the right.
So it's like, you're calling them, and you're like, hey, what do you think? And they're like, we'll think about it. Click.
Now,
what do you think about one pick? You have no pick. What if I give you one pick?
Yeah.
Like, it's like, I just am not looking forward to this offseason because I swear we're going to have an episode where I'm going to be like,
no, but
he's good. You're going to say this is the trade, and I'm going to go, no.
You'll get a handful of teams that'll be vying for services that you'll be able to get something back. And
I hope you're right. I'm going to log this. Suns fans, Nolan believes we'll get.
We're doing an emergency pod when he gets traded. We are definitely like firing this thing up right away, and I feel in the NBA when you trade a great player, and no, KD's not 29, so he's not where he was before. But I've never seen a team trade that player and then they're like, we're much better. No.
But I will say there are some teams that give me hope.
But clearly Phoenix was better before Durant. That's what's nuts. Okay, before we move on, let me ask you this, because I want to go back to something.
Let's go. You're not in the 10 seed. I'm very much cheering the Suns to win this. From your perspective on the outside, when you see Dallas and the Suns, and they're literally within a game or two every day.
Yeah.
Who do you think gets the 10 spot?
If it really comes down to those two.
Not who you want. Who do you think?
I
know who I want.
It's actually not. It's not as easy as I think you might think it would be for me. I will. I'll go out on a limb, and I will say I think I would probably bet on Dallas because I think Davis is going to come back really motivated. It sounds like the players are really fed up with the whole, like, fans are booing and they're constant. All the attention is on the GM Nico Harrison, and they're unrelenting about the trade, which I guess on the other hand could be a bad thing. Maybe they just tank, but I think Davis is motivated to show that, like, they didn't make a mistake, and I think they have a lot of core pieces from that finals run last year. I think they will get in. I think they will start playing better and winning games, and I don't think they'll go very far in the playoffs, but
let's so everyone knows, neither of us think the 10 seed is doing something.
No.
So, like, we both, once Kyrie got hurt, we all knew what that meant. The Suns have nobody hurt, which is even more depressing. But the fact that they would just be at 11, and then I'm just, like, waiting for the offseason moves.
Mm-hmm. Oh. It's heartbreaking.
It's like what you said, Dallas. You just
but again, like, let me say, like, I wouldn't be shocked either way. Like, I really wouldn't.
But again, it's all the Suns have this year. It's not like next year Dallas is going to bring some guys back. They can make some moves. They got a lot of talent. The Suns again are just chopping. So it's like, this is it. So if you guys want to play together, this is it.
Yeah. I mean, if it wasn't for Beal and his no trade clause, I would say there's something to work with here. Like, if this was all happening Beal, wasn't even on the team, and you had to trade Durant, but that was the only issue.
Where's the music? This is like dream scenario.
Yeah,
Like,
no.
hey, man, can you imagine if you didn't make
We definitely need
Beal?
some like
Beal?
plaid violins or something like that playing in
It's
the
a whole.
background.
Stop talking. The Suns fans know we have Beal. He's not that great. So moving up the charts, as you will, as getting to better music, you have two teams that are very interesting. But again, I don't feel like a lot's going to happen with either of them. But I want to hear your take. You have Sacramento, who's currently 9, and the Clippers, who are currently the 8.
And Sabonis just got injured. So he's going to be out for 10 games, I think, or 10 days.
So he's going to be out till the playoffs, but Sacramento does not have a threat. The only two teams that are battling for 10 is Dallas and the Suns. The other teams are nicely in that range where like the 8 and 9 may change a little bit.
Yeah.
And I don't want to get into 7 because I think the 7 battle is interesting, but let's just take those two teams. They're going to be in the play-in, Sacramento and the Clippers. I know who I like of the two teams, but I don't feel either team is like, let's hook a ride to them. So
I like the Clippers better than the Kings for sure.
I would agree with you, but I think that's my star power feeling.
And I feel the same way. I mean, you look at their roster and you got a proven winner in Kawhi, who clearly hasn't been the same, and mostly due to injury in a few years now. But he's got the playoff experience. Norman Powell is having an awesome year. A lot of people thought he should have been an all-star.
Very good year.
And then James.
Can we go back to
James
Kawhi?
Harden is not dead. Like,
can we? So again, can you go back to Kawhi?
Yeah.
To me, is Kawhi the forgotten star?
He is forgotten because, I mean, he's injured so much, you forget he's even on the team. And then you're like, oh, yeah, they got Kawhi. Like, when I think of the Clippers now, as crazy as it is, because he's only been on the team a year and a half, but I think of Harden. I think of Harden when I think of the Clippers.
That's only because the ball is stuck to him.
The ball's exactly. But it's hard to argue that it doesn't belong stuck to him because he's a step slower, maybe. He's not exactly the same threat that he used to be, but he's pretty darn close for an older guy.
When he was earlier on in his career, he reminded me of Manu with he did the Euro step extremely well, and he drew a lot of fouls. He still does all that. But yeah, now that you're putting them together, and they got some bigs.
Zubats is great.
Yeah.
Zubats is a really good center.
So we're just the two teams, Sacramento, to me, you're just like, they're going to lose and be out.
Like, yeah. Oh yeah. I don't believe in Sacramento. They what do? They plucked the 2 best players from the Bulls last year. I mean, I guess you could make a case Vucevic or whatever was in that conversation, but DeRozan and Avin,
they're 9 for a reason.
They're 9 for a reason.
And the Clippers are 8 for a reason too. I don't feel they're going to do any damage, but I do see them making it out of the play-in tournament.
I mean, if the Mavericks were fully healthy and the Suns played up to expectations and the Spurs were healthy, I don't even know if the Kings are in the playoffs.
The Spurs is the most interesting part of that story because I think they're a year early. The trade was helpful, but the Wemby situation, which is really, it's both tragic and interesting because it's not like a knee, it's not like an ankle, it's much deeper, and then you don't know how or when he's going to be released to be able to play or go because again, blood clots are not,
not to be trifled with.
Very serious.
Yeah.
Especially for 7'8". He's 7'7", 7'8", whatever he is. 7'6". Not a little, and he's young. I mean, he's what, 21? He's so young.
Yeah.
So like I could see the Spurs taking another year to just like figure this out. Like would it shock you if he didn't play next year?
No. But I guess it depends on what happens. It depends on what kind of team they build around him next year. If they luck out and they get Cooper Flag or something like that in the
Again, there's a lot of bad teams. We'll get into all that later. Back to the playoffs, but yes, that's an interesting point about those teams all being where they could be.
Yeah.
So Sacramento, you have out. We have Dallas and the Suns. We don't feel they can make it out, but I think of the two teams with AD healthy, I think Dallas could make it out.
I think they could
because they're very good defensively. And then you have the 7, which is interesting because right now the 7, you have two teams that are battling. There seems to be a little bit of gap between 7 and 6. You have Golden State and Minnesota that are currently jockeying between 6 and 7. Sorry, yes. The 7 is in the play-in and the 6 does not.
Yeah.
So between 6 and 5 is the break. Sorry about that. So between Golden State and Minnesota, which team would you project gets out of the play-in? I think both teams would be okay in the play-in, but I feel one team is better to get out of the play-in, and I think I'm being biased. So I'll let you give our listeners the straight.
Well, I'm probably going to have a little recency bias myself, but just because I've watched a lot of the Warriors lately, and I think the Warriors scare me. I wouldn't necessarily bet they're going to the finals. I don't think they'll beat the Thunder, but to me they seem to have shades of the Warriors teams that were, just world beaters. I'm not saying they're there, obviously, but I've seen enough glimpses of it, moments where they look, and they got another month to figure it out with Jimmy Butler and his part. Curry is still Chef Curry, and you just feel like he takes that break in the fourth quarter. He sits on the bench for a little bit. Another team, gets a little feisty, gets a little closer, and then Curry just comes in fresh and puts the daggers in. Warriors, I hate to admit it, but they scare the heck out of me.
So you have the Warriors finishing out of the play-in, and you have Minnesota finishing in the play-in.
I think so.
Right now.
I think so. I think he's really motivated, Curry, and I think he's going to will that team to get the most out of them. I don't think it'll be enough to beat the top teams in the Western Conference, but it'll be enough to make them sweat.
So I feel differently, and I think this is because I'm biased against Golden State, and I really do like Minnesota.
Mm-hmm.
So I really like what Minnesota has as a team.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like if their team is like, again, they remind me of my older basketball fandom because of how they're put together and how they're assembled. I still don't feel they're finals material, but I feel like they are. Now we're talking about real threats.
Mm-hmm.
I feel Minnesota is a legitimate threat to any upper seed team.
Yeah.
And if I'm a 2 facing Minnesota and they come out as a 7, that's a concern. If I'm the 2, I don't want Minnesota. I feel better about Golden State because I feel like they have more weaknesses on the interior. I feel like Minnesota's very long. They can beef up and get big down low. And they have the shooters. And they also have the X factor.
You know what? That's a team that if Edwards and Randall are both firing on all cylinders, dangerous, really dangerous.
So we're talking about. I don't think you would be. I know I wouldn't be if those teams are 6 or 7 and they make it out of the first round.
Mm-hmm.
That wouldn't surprise you.
No.
So the 2 and the 3 in the Western Conference could be out. Which right now, as of today, is Houston's the 2. I believe Denver's the 3 with, I believe the Lakers are 4.
Now, I like Houston, as I mentioned, but I could absolutely see an upset if they end up playing the Warriors or the Wolves in the first round.
And to be honest with you, I think if Denver has to face Minnesota, that is a terrible matchup.
That's a bad matchup for them because you got Gobert to throw on Jokic,
and then you have Reed. They have the backup to Gobert. I mean, they have the height, and they bother Denver because of their length and their defense.
Yep.
So like
And they
to
have
me,
a toughness to them.
so I think if that would be interesting. So if Houston faced Golden State and Denver faced Minnesota, you could see Houston and Denver both exiting early.
Totally. Which is crazy because almost any other teams I would have certainly Denver going over.
I think Minnesota is the only kryptonite in the lower half for Denver.
Yeah.
But I also think if Minnesota plays the Lakers, I think the Lakers are gone.
I think I could absolutely see them upset the Lakers.
But to your point, this is the odd part here because they're both good teams that are still figuring it out, if that makes sense. Because of the trade last year, some injuries for Minnesota, and then you just had the trade with Butler. If I was going to bet more money on a team to make it out of the first round, I put it on Minnesota. Again, bias. I just feel like Golden State could have a couple off nights, and the worst thing that can happen to Golden State is if Curry got hurt.
That would change everything.
Because that, again, I talk about MVPs, and we'll go back into that in a minute, but Curry not playing for Golden State is detrimental. I know they just won without him, and I understand you can have one game against the Bucks, and you can beat the Bucks, and that's great. Because again, in the regular,
the Bucks leave a lot to be desired too. So,
but I also think in the regular season, when you hear these guys are not going to play, you just are like, okay, we just need to show up and we should beat this team. But in the playoffs, if you have a man down, you want that win.
And that's what scares me about some of the teams with some of the old figureheads, like the Clippers, like the Warriors, like the teams that were, really good 5 years ago, and or the players that were like the very best a few years ago, and now like we forget about them because there's all this flashy new toys at the top of the conference. But like, man, there's part of me that's just like thinking like James Harden is just like, and even Curry to a degree. I don't want to accuse him of not going all out, but like in the back of their minds, they're just chilling at the end of these games, win or lose, not sweating it out, and like come playoff times, they're gonna turn it up, and it's gonna be like 5 years ago all over again. It's gonna be like the prime is back.
So I feel this is a detriment for the Western Conference when they go to the finals. I feel the top 4 seeds of the Western Conference, in all legitimacy, the number 1 seed OKC could have to battle the Clippers. That's not an easy out.
No.
Like if you look at Boston and the Cavs, I would argue they have an easier out with the 7 and 8 seed coming in. Easy sweeps for both those teams. 100%. I wouldn't even 4-1, 4-0, no problem.
Yep.
If OKC sweeps the Clippers, we all go, yep, we could see that happening. If the Clippers take 2 games, I can totally see that happen.
Absolutely.
And here's the problem with the playoffs. And I'm a Suns fan, so I know what it's like to get beat up in the playoffs. If you have a first round 6-game series, which I could see every single one going 6 or 7 in the Western Conference.
It could.
It exhausts you. You have a higher likelihood for injuries, higher likelihood of, bruises and bangs, all of that fun stuff. So you have 2 teams that are really good in the Eastern Conference, the Cavs and Boston, just getting rid of those teams and moving on. Resting as well. You get rest days. You have a 6-7 game series. Guess what the next round looks like in the Western Conference? Another round.
Another 6-7
games.
Yeah.
So the only one that if you can get a 4-1 or 4-0 series, that just is a benefit. Absolutely. But I've seen that hurt teams in the Western Conference because they have an easy series, but the next one's a battle. So it's like the Western Conference is going to be a battle. So you have coming out, you believe in the Clippers over the 9 and the 10, no matter who the 10 is, no matter who the 9 is, the Clippers you see as the 8. Yeah. And then the 7 would be Minnesota or Golden State. You see both those teams taking care of the playoffs and moving on.
I do. I wouldn't be surprised if like the standings the way that they are today are identical to what they are at the end of the year. The only thing that I wouldn't say I expect, but wouldn't surprise me at all is like the Rockets dropping down a couple pegs.
Yeah, I think that it's interesting how close they all are. Because the 2 seed has how many wins? Was it 44 right now?
Houston has 44 and the Nuggets have 44. They're kind of tight.
But then you look at the 6 and 7 seed has 40.
Yeah.
So between 2 and 7 is 4 games.
Very close.
And I know we only have 14, 12 games left. What are we at? 68 games. So you have 14 games, 14, 15 games left. 4 games is hard to come up with that many teams, but there's a lot of switching that can occur. And I wonder, and I do wonder this, if Denver's like, let's get away from Minnesota. Let's just not.
Yeah.
Which is hard to do because, again, it's not like Minnesota and Golden State have 35 wins and they're going to be the 6 and 7 and you know how to avoid them. Golden State and Minnesota could move out of the playoff altogether, and Memphis could fall into the playoff. And if you put Memphis in the playoff, the play-in. If you put Memphis in the play-in, let's just walk a scenario. Memphis falling into the play-in game, I could see the Clippers and Dallas getting out of that. I could see Memphis getting out.
I could too. They've kind of got a little bit of the Knicks in them, where they've kind of crapped the bed in statement opportunities.
I think that the teams that people are looking forward to in the Western Conference to play are Houston and Memphis. If you're circling teams that you want to play in the first round, it's Houston and Memphis, and I would laugh if Houston played Memphis.
That would be pretty funny.
Because I think the other teams, like a Minnesota, would rather play a Houston. Denver would rather play a Houston or a Memphis. Especially a Memphis, you feel like, I can move on pretty easily here.
Yeah. Yeah.
But if you're Denver and you play Minnesota, like, this is your life.
That's
you in this, you can move on.
That's a lot of
go
pressure
pretty far
for the first round. Boy.
So I think the 2 teams that I would peg right now in the top 6 are Memphis and Houston as what matchup they get and where they end up falling. If Memphis is in the play-in game and Dallas has their players back, I can see Dallas beating them and getting into the playoffs. And then they're playing OKC, which I think makes it a 5, maybe 6 game series because Dallas is very good defensively.
Yeah. I'd probably predict a 4 or 5 game win for OKC.
It's really, but again, they haven't done it.
Unless Kyrie shows up and says, I'm ready to go come playoff time.
They fixed my knee.
It's been a miracle. It's a miracle. I'm ready to rock.
I went and got healed.
Yeah.
The Lord has come down. So that's the Western Conference, and I think it's definitely the one to watch here at the end of the season, in my opinion.
Yeah.
We did have that MVP conversation last week, and one of the things we talked about is, well, if you take Joker off the team, Denver's not the same. And then I laughed because Denver took Joker and Murray off the team, and then they beat the Lakers.
Yeah.
So I think the end of these, to your point about the end of the season, and this is again the other point about the MVP trophy. The MVP always felt, I know it's a regular season trophy, but now with players resting and people getting pulled out and getting ready for the playoffs, I just feel like the meaning of the MVP is not as grand as it used to be.
Yeah, I hadn't thought about that. I wonder if they would start to consider playing how much these guys played, but there's so much protection around these guys and needing their rest, and it's like taboo to say that you're weak if you need your rest or whatever these days. Like they're coddled. I hate to use that word because it sounds self-righteous and presumptuous of me, but I don't know. It's a players' league run by the players for the players, and so at the end of the day, I think it's going to be they're going to judge you on the time you played on the court, not necessarily considering what you took off for and how much you took off.
I think that the way the regular season is, it makes it more evident to me that SGA is just going to get it from OKC. They've had the best year. I know as we wrap it up, they've already locked the number 1 seed. They've run away with all of it.
Yeah.
There's something to that. He's consistent. That's the other thing is he doesn't have terrible games.
And make no doubt about it, like they're not the same team, obviously, without him. Like they're just.
And again, like we didn't even get into this, how they got him on OKC.
Speaking of Kawhi Leonard,
So like,
well, not Kawhi,
so
but
let me
indirectly Kawhi.
go back to how I gave you hope for a Knicks fan.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to give myself or other Suns fans, all 10 of them that are watching us, some hope. They traded an older player, large contract, Paul George, to the Clippers for what people would have determined then as a good trade.
Mm-hmm.
Because they were like, ooh, they got their guys.
Because they got him with Kawhi at the same time.
So they had their three that they were really excited about. If I'm getting rid of a KD,
who's better than Paul George, was better then during the time of the trade, and is better now.
There's no one's going to doubt that.
Yeah.
There's nobody, I don't even know a single person walk of life that would say that. I feel like Kawhi, even with his injuries, is better than Paul George.
Mm-hmm.
So they get an all-star for Paul George. They get the MVP. They got the MVP of the league who was in LA. Now, mind you, he's in LA. He wasn't on the Lakers, but he was on the Clippers in LA. The Clippers had him.
Mm-hmm.
Like, isn't that I've been an NBA fan for way too long. The Clippers have been so bad for so many years. Like, of course they made that trade. Like, of course they traded away the MVP. You know what I mean? For Paul George.
Like you said, though, at the time, like you're thinking, man, go Clippers. Like, do your thing. You're getting Paul George and Kawhi. You just got Kawhi off of the NBA championship with Toronto. He won a championship 1 year, and then he's ready to move on and come back home to LA. That was a pivot from the Chris Paul, Blake Griffin years, right? Where they probably should have fared better than they did, where they were relevant, but they never got to the big, the final game. They never got to the championship. So man, I feel bad for them.
Did they make that move when the new owner came in too? I feel like that was around the similar time frame, because the Suns had the new owner, and when the Suns had the new owner come in, what they did there is that
I don't think it was right after Ballmer came in, but it was, it was in this first maybe 5 or 6 years.
Yeah, I just, they're trying to get, like, it's the same feeling that Suns when they got Beal with KD,
Yeah. I don't know. It felt like, to me, like I remember being pretty impressed. Like, teams usually, unless you're the Lakers, who just like always seem to be able to like pluck other people's superstars at the right times. Like there's usually like the lifespan is like you get a good core of players that contends, they make it as far as they can, and then you have to break it all the way down and start and rebuild again. And it's like a peaks and valleys. And it seemed like they kind of skipped the valley. Because they had the what's his name, DeAndre Jordan, Blake Griffin, Chris Paul years, and then they kind of just like went right into that next phase with Kawhi and Paul George, and now they pivoted again, and they're still a playoff caliber team. I don't know, man. But they're never quite like all the way there.
I feel like the GM for OKC, because it's not like they just have great players. They have great players. They have a great team, and they have a ton of picks.
And they get their talent from everywhere.
But I think
they should free agent signings, draft picks, G League, undrafted player signings. Like that guy. He'd be my GM to start a franchise.
I think they should write about the moves OKC has made over, and I'm sure they have, but I mean like a book. You know what I mean?
Oh, I'd love to read that.
Going inside with him talk to him about the moves and how he was crafting them. Because you could totally see him holding on to a player like a Paul George. You could totally see him justifying every move to not make the move he's made. Because, again, you got more picks. What are you going to do with more picks?
Right.
You got this guy. You got that guy. Like, even this offseason, them signing in the free agency an additional center when you have this the Gonzaga kid.
Holmgren.
You have Holmgren who hurt himself this year.
Yeah.
But they signed in the offseason this
other starting caliber center. Like,
and he
really good.
Stepped in, and he has been fantastic for them.
Yeah.
And you just look at that, and you're like,
the Knicks
foresight to not say, I'm okay. I'm okay. I have Chet. I'm okay.
And they got Alex Caruso too. What a great free agent pickup.
I would love to see a book just with him about the last 5 to 6 years, because again, there's nobody covering the NBA that looks at OKC and goes, that's the destination. That's where players want to go to play. They don't. They're not interested. They aren't interested in covering them very much. Like, even when they moved from Seattle and they had KD and Harden and Westbrook, think about from that to this. Like, when they lost those teams, I was like, oh, I guess OKC's never going to be content. They're going to be in the abyss. And now they're number one, and they have all these picks. They have great young players. They don't have a 35-year-old great guy. They got 20-year-old guys.
Yeah. No, they
could even draft.
Years.
They could even draft, because they have other people's picks. They can draft great talent that they know is a year or two away.
Absolutely.
So, they are. And again, who's betting against this GM?
And, not to keep harping on the KD thing, but as he would be an example, they could take a risk on just swing, if they somehow got knocked out in the second round this year, or even the conference finals, and felt like, all right, we're not as prepped as we thought we were. They could take a swing at trading for a superstar and it completely fly in their face, not work, fall, just be a disaster. But it wouldn't be a big deal. It would be like a blip on the radar screen for them, because they have so many extra picks, so many good young talents. It really wouldn't be a big deal for them.
Do you know why I don't think it wouldn't fall on their face? Because the other players, the bench, the starters, they're all bought in.
Yep.
So if you show up as a superstar and you start acting all high and mighty, or I can't,
not gonna work.
If you're not going to do that, they're going to just say, we're not going to play. We don't care.
Yeah.
You need to be bought into that culture.
They have the luxury that if and when they want to make a superstar trade, they're going to do it for the right guy. They're going to do it for the guy that fits them.
I just feel like you just can't emphasize this enough. To trade away a Paul George, to be able to see that, to know that, and to be confident in that move, and to be able to justify it, that's very rare. That's why a book about this GM would be fantastic.
Yeah.
See what he was thinking. He must have saw. I mean, again, my favorite is they go to Doc Rivers, and he's was the one who was coaching SGA, and you're like, oh yeah, we all saw it was going to be great. I'm like, then why would the Clippers trade him if they thought he was going to be the guy?
I don't think anyone thought he was going to be this great.
Nobody thought he was.
He was a fun player. As a rookie, he was definitely a guy that a lot of teams looked back on, were why didn't we pick this guy up? But I don't think anyone thought MVP.
At the time of the trade, there are you could probably name 20 players that are MVP caliber players before him.
Mm-hmm.
Not 5, not 6, 20. And I guarantee you, if you talk to every GM in the league, they would have said the Clippers, Paul George is better than him.
Oh, yeah.
He may have more upside, but Paul George is a much better player. The majority of GMs would have said that.
Yeah. I think most teams make that trade at the time.
I don't disagree with you about making the trade at the time. I'm just simply arguing this idea that everyone saw it, or the people who were around him saw. No, they didn't. No. That brings us to the other trophy that's probably not that meaningful, but it is kind of funny because the individual's making a lot of noise. The Golden State Warriors have a very interesting player, Green. He's on podcast now. He likes chatting with everybody. He's always been a problem, if you will. He's kind of like wants to be Rodman, has come out and said he is hands down the defensive player of the year for the Western Conference. And I kind of was like, I haven't thought about defensive player of the year for the Western Conference, but I don't even think he was in my top. But when you heard this, were you like, oh yeah, that makes sense?
It's hard to look past and hear past just Draymond Green being a big mouth. I mean, that guy thinks he's the greatest gift to basketball that the game has ever had. And I can't take him serious. So
high confidence. He's got a high confidence level. I have a probably a more interesting question for you. Green without Curry. What happens to him if he's not with Steve Kerr and he's not with Curry?
I'm trying to not be like just biased and a hater, because I want to be objective and fair. But I don't think it's rocket science to say that like Curry is just, Green is just not the player that he is now without being on those Golden State teams with Curry and Thompson and I think a case,
KD.
Yeah, KD. I think a case could be made that he's an important part specifically because of his defense and his toughness. A critical piece. Maybe they win less championships without him, but I think there's also a real world where if he got drafted by, I don't know, Detroit or Orlando or some team in the East that was not sniffing playoff appearances all those years, like he might have been a nice role player, but like he's not like changing your team. He's not making your team like a contender. And maybe he finds himself like as like a low key free agent signing on a contender at some point, and then we're like come to appreciate him like later in life. Like a lot of players, they're good, but they're not like superstars, and they play on bad teams, and so you don't really hear about them. And then suddenly, like a contender picks them up in a trade deadline trade, or just as a cheaper free agent signing, and wow, this player's like unlocked because they're playing with all these superstars now. Maybe that happens in an alternate universe, but no, I don't think Draymond Green is nearly as good as he thinks he is.
I don't think he's the defensive player this year, but if I looked at his career, my question, one of the things that I thought about was, do you know how you remember these players that were just problems for a team because they didn't feel the team was a good fit for them and they weren't going to make it to where they wanted to in their career or also the playoffs. So they made problems until they were traded. I feel like Green would have ended up at Golden State.
Okay.
Like, I feel like if it's one of those things that my dad always would tell me. He said, if everybody take away everybody's money and start from zero, the likelihood of the people with the money having the money again is very high.
Right.
Like, the people without the money will still be without the money, and the people with the money will go get the money.
Right.
There's just something about that. I feel like Green is in that, like,
his nickname is Money Green.
But Steve Kerr is like, I can take care of this guy. I've played with Rodman. I can do this. And Steph Curry's like, we really need a tough guy. We need a guy with a mouth and things like that. So I could see, like, in my scenario of like the Matrix of like, if you're going to play like take it all away, bring it all back, I think Green finds himself on Golden State.
He finds that. I think you're right. Or like a team like that. Maybe even like a Cavs team, good Cavs.
Would that be
team.
interesting if he was with James?
Ooh.
Wouldn't that have been interesting? Because the two of them together would have been an interesting mix, because James is so correct politically. Like, he's just like, he says the right thing at the right time. He's not Green. Green's crazy.
He probably could have kept him in check though.
That would be, that's That's an interesting vibe. Like, I could see Green playing with LeBron. I could see him ending up with Golden State.
But on the court, like, that would have been a tough duo right there. As your 3 and your 4. Wow.
I would completely agree with you. And then, because remember, the Cavs, when they beat Golden State, they had Kyrie.
Mm-hmm.
That's an interesting dynamic to a team.
Yeah.
It's interesting because when everyone talks about the big three, they never talk about those like solid pieces you need. Like, you needed a Green to win those championships.
So if I'm not mistaken, he was a second round pick, or at least a high, maybe back end of the first round, like, pick, like maybe like the.
Yeah, I can look that up while you.
I'm just so again. There's totally like a scenario here where I'm just a hater, and I don't know what I'm talking about. That's fine. NBA insider, NBA idiot. I'm comfortable with either one, but do you think I'm off base by saying there is a world where if Draymond Green does get drafted at that place by a team that just is a perennial loser, that he's not even a household name to most people?
What's crazy is here's where we just have to kind of accept this. So he was a 35th pick in the second round to Golden State.
Okay, so I was right.
In that draft, you had Anthony Davis number 1, Bradley Beal was number 3, Damian Lillard was 6, Andre Drummond was 9, and those are the big ones and then Draymond Green is the other big one in that draft. So to me, I think he ends up being himself. Like, if you're drafted in the second round and this is the career he made himself, there's something to the fact that he did that.
Yeah.
Is he the defensive player of the year this year? I don't think so for the Western Conference. Is he still helpful to a team? Yeah, he can be. He certainly can be helpful to Golden State. Like, I think he certainly is a piece. And again, Kerr's a great coach. So you have that dynamic. But I understand it's kind of how he adds salt to water sometimes, or vinegar to the whole thing because of the way he speaks. But I would have a lot of pride if I was a second round pick that nobody bet on, and like,
it's true.
Like, and then you're better than, I mean, if you think about it, 35th, and I just named 4 or 5 individuals.
You put it that way, and honestly, I definitely come off as a hater. He did just call out Kat for missing a game recently when Kat was attending to like a personal issue. So
I think he does those things to get in his head, though, because I think there are certain players that I just think these players know what buttons to push when you get to play each other, and to try to get it, because that was the other thing is they were talking back and forth, and after the Knicks lost, he walked off, didn't want to shake anybody else's hand, and the Knicks were still shaking people's hands.
Yeah.
Like, Green is okay. Green likes being hated.
He does.
Like, he's okay with that.
Yeah.
And like, as an old school NBA, like, there's kind of
respect there, right?
There's kind of Detroit Piston kind of feeling about it,
Yeah.
Like, I'm okay if you hate me. Like, I got a job to do. My job is to get in your head, and if you miss a shot because I was in your head, I did the best ever.
Yeah. No, it's true. It's true.
That's why, going back to our earlier conversation, we were like, Golden State, ooh, tough out. Green's one of the reasons why they're a tough out.
He's also probably like one of those guys that you hate to lose to. But man, if he was on your team, he'd probably be like one of your favorite players.
Oh, I guarantee that. Absolutely. Like I was like, I think in the grand scheme of like nice people to lose to, like Elijah won, but his teammates that he was with, you wouldn't want to, you hated those guys.
Yeah.
But like Elijah won, you're like, I can respect losing to him. Like a Tim Duncan, but like, I don't want to lose to Bruce Bowen.
No.
But like, I can respect Tim Duncan, but no one ever goes, man, it was okay, we lost to Bruce. But Bruce had a job to do. He knew what his job was. He played his role really, really well. And there's something to be said about understanding that. Like, I always call it, when you work with people, like, what's the pitch you want to hit? Let's put the ball where you want to hit it so you can hit a home run every time. I feel like Green found his niche, and he just excelled in it. So I just feel like he would have found it no matter what, because if he found it as a second-round pick, I think he would have found it in the NBA no matter where he went.
Fair enough. You make a compelling case.
There you go, Your Honor. So to close us out for this episode, clearly you're feeling that's really sad about how you feel earlier about the Knicks, to be honest with you, because as it's hard to try to enjoy these moments, especially when you had such high expectations for it all.
I think,
but I understand it.
I think I feel the way I do because I just feel so strongly, as we've talked about, that the Cavs and the Celtics are very clear number 1 and number 2, and
they're not. They're just not there.
They're just not there. Yeah,
and they're not even like in the conversation of like a 2A or a 3, possibly a 2. They just feel like they're just at another level.
Yeah,
they're just at a floor above them.
Yeah,
and I don't know what the Knicks need. That's what makes the Western Conference interesting. Is I don't feel, and maybe this is just my bias, I don't feel like OKC is a floor above everybody else, because I feel like there's a lot of messes that are going to happen in the Western Conference.
I would agree with that. As good as I feel about how good OKC is, I feel I would be less surprised if OKC got upset and didn't make the finals than if the Cavs or the Celtics got upset before the Eastern Conference Finals. Does that make sense?
It makes sense. I mean, I would agree with that.
I would be utterly shocked if it's not Cavs.
Cavs don't face Boston.
If it's not Cavs versus Boston, yeah, I would.
You're going to say who got injured?
Who exactly?
Who got injured and how bad was it?
I'm gonna think. Okay, if it's the Cavs, then Donovan Mitchell got injured. Or if it's Boston, I'm gonna think like Brown and Tatum got injured.
You need 2 guys
because that is what it would take
for Boston to not. That's another GM that should be focused on too. There's 2 GMs you should write books about: Boston, and how they built this team, because it's very anti how you thought they were building it, I guess you could say.
Boston, and then they've been fleecing teams for years.
And then again, it's like, oh, look, you don't like that? Look how great they are on our squad. And then I always used to look at that and go, how come we don't know that?
Since they talked the Nets into
know that this player is not that good when we watch him all the time in practices.
Oh,
it's like that. I've always felt that way about every sports team. I'm like, you watch him all the time and you're trading him away, and then suddenly they're great, and you're like, huh? Like, is it really about the chemistry, and is it really about how the coaches interact with them? Is it really about all that?
And it's a lot of personal stuff. I mean, like, look at this Doncic trade, right? I mean,
I think I think that's a bigger piece of the NBA, and it's like a culture at an office. All it takes is a manager or somebody who gets in the wrong upper management position, and then suddenly they're just like nickel and diamond everybody, and everyone's on pins and needles, and they're not being themselves. And then if you get in a situation that just lets you be, they understand you and let you be who you are, and they're happy with that, like, then you're just like playing really great. It's interesting because I think the NBA can have that because it's so small. It's such a small group of people, and your window, I feel, with all those coaches, it can easily turn into like a gossip. Like this guy isn't giving me all that I want every time. They're not giving me that, and it could just be you hired the wrong assistant who's assessing it incorrectly.
Yeah, or just has an axe to grind for whatever reason.
That's the part of the book on the GMs that I would be interested in, is how do you build that coaching staff, that cohesive coaching staff that allows your players to really be accelerate and excel everywhere? Because there's clearly some bad examples, but the great ones, you're like, man, how does all that work? And I do believe there's a little hint of magic. There's things that just happen that you don't control.
Totally.
Like relationships, like these people just get each other.
Yep.
Like they're just like, that you've met somebody and you're like, oh my gosh, like was that Step Brothers scene?
Yeah.
Where we just come in friends? Yes. I feel like there's a little bit of that in the NBA.
Totally.
Well, we got 3 weeks left, and we're going to be here all through the playoffs and the off season and everything like that. So please subscribe and like us, and we hope you're enjoying Nolan and myself on the Hoop and the Harm, and we're enjoying it. Just talking about basketball. as I said, I'm going to be cheering for the Suns all the way to 10. They face the Bulls tonight, and I think that's our peak this year. And then I can cry or be happy about whatever trade we were about to make in the offseason.
And I'll be watching like a slow, sad drama movie that I've seen before, and I know how it ends, but it sucks me in.
Right. You're sucked in and surprised every time. Thank you, Hallmark Channel.
Yeah.
All right, everybody. Thanks so much. You guys have a great night.
Take care.